Hello everyone, I'm back again, and this has been a long time coming. This will be, I'm going to say, my revisit to the Sonos Arc. Now I own one, now I've had some time to play around with it, and honestly, I have some mixed feelings. But where to begin? So, I've been playing with the Sonos Arc for about just a little over 2 days now, I've had it. I went and picked it up. As you can see, it matches nothing in my unit. This is because the Sonos Arc is sold out pretty much everywhere, and I had to kind of settle for a white one, even though everything else I own is black. It is what it is. So, setup of the Sonos Arc, I'm not going to show you how to do that because honestly, like every reviewer's shown you how to do that. I will say this though, I've done the setup, I've done the true play, I've done everything I could do to make this system really sing, really shine. But I'm not totally impressed. Now, before a bunch of people start typing comments about, how I just have this thing against Sonos, no. I am objectively looking at this from somebody who has owned the Q90R and the Nakamichi, and who has primarily used the Nakamichi for the last few months. So I'm basing this on a factor of how much it immerses me in my content, how nice it sounds, and if there's any drawbacks to it. So let's begin with one thing I wanted to get out of the way in the first place. I don't like the fact that this only has one HDMI out. I really feel like Sonos dropped the ball here. They should have at least included one or two HDMI in. It wouldn't have cost that much more. And for the price that you're paying, I feel like, again, they sort of... I understand that they want to keep things simple, but still. This system is incredibly loud. The bass is just insane when connected to both the sub and, of course, the rear speakers. Yes, I have the whole kit and caboodle. Now, I didn't buy the whole kit and caboodle all at once, though. I originally had a play bar for music, and what I did was I took the rears from the play bar and reconnected them as rears for the Arc, and did the same thing with the sub. So, yeah, this is the full thing. With one exception, I don't have a double up on a sub, and that's because Sonos, for whatever reason, limits you to having either only one sub or a Gen 3 sub and a whatever other kind of sub you have. You have to have a Gen 3 sub, though, in order to have dual subs, which I'm not really impressed with. It basically means you have to spend another $900 on a new sub after you've already spent however much money you have if you already own Sonos gear, which again is kind of a kick in the butt. Okay, so I don't like cranking this system too high. It's just a little bit too loud, but not in a good way. Like, the bass on this thing is just... I don't know how to describe it. It's good, but it's not good. Like, it's loud for the sake of being loud. This soundbar is loud for the sake of being loud. It tries to cover up the fact that you don't have rear channels by just blasting out sound. And I'm sure that a lot of people who have not had the time to compare different systems would think that's awesome. I, however, do not think that's awesome. And I feel like there are some drawbacks to that. So, again, where to even really start with this review? So, I've been demoing Dolby Atmos content on my usual Dolby Atmos disc. I did it with both Dolby Digital Plus, and I did it with True HD, because this soundbar is supposed to support eARC, and therefore should support Dolby True HD. I played my usual demos, and again, I'm not really impressed. But the proof is in the pudding, right? You've heard my other reviews before, you've seen them, you've seen or heard kind of what my systems sound like in this room. Well, I'm about to demo the Sonos Arc for you so you can hear for yourselves. I think that the Arc is a really good system, but it primarily focuses all of its sound signature on this only, because the rears are loud, sure, but they're not really dedicated rear speakers. It's not like the Q90R or the Nakamichi that have dedicated rear speakers. And it's because of this I feel like some of the immersion is lost. Immersion is very important if you're a gamer or if you really want to just really get into your movies. And especially with Atmos. So, I'm going to very critically critique the Sonos Arc. I'm going to ignore what other reviewers have said. I'm going to ignore what other reviews have said online, and I'm going to subjectively analyze every little last detail, because no system is perfect, and the Sonos Arc, in my opinion so far, is definitely not perfect. So the first drawback to the Sonos Arc is because of the way that it uses psychoacoustics to bounce sound around the room, very similar in fact to the Q90R, except without the finesse, if you will. I'm sure Sonos people are going to be blasting me in the comments, but hear me out. I had to move that soundbar up even after using TruePlay because it wasn't enough. I could barely hear the 3D effects around me. It wasn't enough. Now you can crank the volume, but you'll literally blow your neighbors away if you're in an apartment building like I am. Or you're gonna hear distortion, because unfortunately this soundbar has, I think it has a limiter on it. And the only reason why I say that is because at higher volumes, I found that it compressed a lot. I can really hear the bass just pounding, but everything else feels like it's sort of losing detail, which is weird, because this soundbar is supposed to support the latest eARC standard. So I tested the Q90R, and retested the Q90R, and I'm going to do a new review of that one next. And eARC on that sounds awesome. Just the clarity behind it. And when I compare that to this, I don't know. It's hard to compare them. They're two very different sounding soundbars, and I don't want to discredit the Sonos Arc completely, but the Q90R sounds much more clear, and so far, at least in my experience, it's much more immersive as well. Is it as immersive as the Nakamichi? No. But that's only because the Nakamichi has more rear speakers. 4 rear speakers as opposed to only 2. If the Q90R had 2 more speakers, it could easily compete with the Nakamichi. Likewise, if the Q90R had a little bit of a better bass, it could easily compete with the Nakamichi. The Sonos Sub is one of my personal favorites. However, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like at times it's just a little bit too strong, which is weird of me to say. One nice thing about the Sonos Sub is you're never going to know exactly where the bass sound is coming from. And there's 2 woofers in the Arc too, so that kind of adds to the bass. But again, the bass is just ridiculous in this system. I'd actually say it's overpowering, and it kind of takes out detail in scenes, because all you hear is boom! Like literally, it's like a big boom. Anyway, I don't know how else to describe it. So I'm going to play some demos for you of Atmos. I'm going to turn up the volume to the best of my ability because, it's almost 9 o'clock at night, and I got to be careful with how loud I put this thing starting now. But I'll tell you right now, it will not have the same effect. And even, mind you, I don't even know if YouTube will do it justice, but it will not have the same effect as the Nakamichi or the Q90R, because all of the Atmos is coming out of this thing. The dedicated rear speakers are not actually dedicated rear speakers. You set them up as rears, that doesn't make them dedicated rears. Now, are they clear? Yes. Are they loud? Absolutely. But do they surround you in a 3D bubble? No. This tries its best to, but in my opinion, it just doesn't quite get there. But hey, you can be the judges for yourself. I'm going to play you some demos now. Let's start with my personal favorite, the Rainstorm. We'll play it in Dolby Digital Plus first, and then Dolby True HD. Starting with Dolby Digital Plus. Okay, so right away, I can tell you right now, that did not feel like the rain was coming from above me. Let's try True HD. See if that makes a difference. It should. Okay, so again, it's very loud. And I guess, you know, in some regards, because it's so loud, sound is surrounding you. But it is not a 3D bubble. Let's try my other favorite, the Leaf. Now, the reason why this is my favorite is because it's supposed to simulate a little leaf going 360 degrees all around you in a circle. Let's see how it does. Again, it's very loud. Okay, again, it didn't have the same kind of idea. It didn't feel like the leaf was moving around me. It just felt like it switched from the front speaker and back to the rears. Let's try one more. Let's try the helicopter. That'll tell us for sure, because if you calibrate a system properly, now mind you, with the Sonos it's a little different because you calibrate using TruePlay. But when you calibrate a Dolby Atmos system properly, it should sound like the helicopter is moving around you, and it should sound the same volume no matter where it hits. Let's check it out. Okay, nope. No. It definitely did not sound like that was around me. So, not a very good showing so far. Sonos people gonna hate me, but that's okay because I know what my ears hear and I know what things sound like because I've been working with the Q90R and the Nakamichi for months now, testing them back and forth and back and forth. And I know for a fact they come much closer to a 3D sound than this has so far. I say so far though because I don't want to shoot myself in the foot. Alright, let's try my favorite demo. Gears 5. We're gonna go back to the main menu. We're gonna load up what I usually load up. And again, it's really loud, but it's not enveloping. So much bass. Like the bass actually feels like it's a bit overpowering at times. Or like the bass is masking some of the sound that could be coming out of the speaker.
Previously on Gears.
Dialogue's nice and clear. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, like, it's powerful. I'll give it that. Anyway, skip this.
Alright, Control, we're going in.
Control? Really? I have a name. Control.
Regs are regs, Bear. I mean, Control.
And we're already breaking enough of as it is.
What Jin doesn't know won't hurt her. This is my call, alright? If the First Minister doesn't like it, she can yell at me. Which she almost certainly will.
Just tell us where to go, Control.
I'll do my best. But remember, no one's been in that facility for like 25 years.
Yeah, that's pretty evident.
You're not there to buy a timeshare. You're there to launch an old Hammer-Thon prototype.
And your intel says one of the silos is still intact, right?
Yeah, as far as they can tell. Just get Dave to a functional control room. He'll handle the launch sequence.
Okay. I can barely hear the water behind me. It's there, but I don't know. It's just kind of background noise. Let's go up the hill like we normally do. Now things get quiet. If Atmos was working properly, you should be able to hear birds off to the left, birds off to the right, depending on where I turn, the sound of the waterfall. Well, okay, it's not bad, but unfortunately, it's not great either. I mean, honestly, so far I'm a little disappointed. Given the price point of the Arc, I feel like it should be doing a lot more than what it is, but let's just go to another game here. We're gonna go to Mafia Definitive Edition. And again, the upper firing channels are only in the front, so that's where you're kind of hearing the rain, but it's not coming up to the ceiling and then coming back down to where I'm sitting. It's not working very well. Not the way that I'm used to. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna log into Netflix for a second. Let's go to something which has PCM. PCM. We gotta find it. Oh dear. There we go. PCM.
今年の蚊の大量発生の原因は一体何なのか。蚊の専門家であり本も出されているカーフェチ氏に来ていただきました。よろしくお願いいたします。結論から言わせてもらうと、今年の蚊は完全な新種であるため、私もわかりません。帰れ。
Okay. That wasn't bad. Some systems really struggle with PCM, so that was pretty good. Let's go to something with... I mean, I guess so. It's got 5.1.
Today really marks the first stage of an unprecedented technological advancement. We have begun...
Okay. So considering that this is a 5.1 Atmos... Well, sorry. No. 5.1.2 Atmos system. I was expecting that to sound a little bit better. Not bad. Not great. And again, I already know how Atmos content sounds from my games. So there's a couple things I want to go over. The first is the positives of this system. One, it's really easy to set up. Like, your grandmother could do it. Seriously. As long as she knows computers, boom. You're in like Flint. Second, the look of this system is really classy. I mean, if you really want to show off and you really want to strut your stuff, Sonos is definitely an all-in-one, system. It has the looks, it has the capability, and I'm sure your friends would most friends would just love it. 3, even though it's also a drawback, simplicity is not a bad thing. Because it only has one HDMI out, it's very easy to connect and even easier to really get set up with your TV. 3, 4, sorry guys. Anyway, whatever the next number is, Sonos is really easy to connect to all of your Sonos devices that you already have. So if you already have a sub and rears, you can easily connect them like that. It's just reconnecting them to a different room or whatever. It's like snapping your fingers. It's so quick. I was impressed. For at least, and then the Sonos Arc, I seem to think that, I know that the Sonos Arc is really good for cinema and movies. At least for like just sheer rocking sound. It's also pretty good for music too. I'm not going to play you any music though because I don't want to get copyright flagged. Otherwise I would.
Over, man.
As Netflix tries to completely play something without my permission. Okay, stop it. Okay. Now that I've gotten the good out of the way, I have a lot of things to say about this system. The first, even though it claims to be Atmos, I think your room needs to meet very specific requirements. Like, it needs to be completely enclosed, the ceilings need to be a maximum of maybe 8 feet high, and there can't be any openings in the room either. The more wide open it is, the more whatever it is, the more your Atmos will suffer. It's kind of similar to the Q90R in that regard, except it doesn't reflect sound well off of walls as well as the Q90R seems to. And because of that, yeah, this is another thing. The Arc only has upward firing drivers in the Arc itself. So your rear speakers don't have upward firing drivers, and they don't have any kind of elevation software going on either. So they're just rear speakers. They're just like having, literal rear speakers. There's nothing special to them. They don't really add anything. They might add a little bit of surround, but that's about it, really. I like how in the app, Sonos tells you when you're running Atmos. That's kind of nice considering you do not have a heads-up display on the bar. But yeah, build quality on the Sonos is really nice. However, why is it not metal? It's definitely plastic, and for $1,000 I thought you'd get something a little bit more hefty, but maybe that's just my personal preference, and I apologize in advance. Okay. So, who is this system for? Well, in my opinion, it's for people who primarily watch movies and who already own the Sonos ecosystem and love listening to music on there. But this Sonos system is not for gamers or anyone who's looking for pure, raw immersion. The Sonos Arc, at least for me, with my room, did not deliver on that front. And I've tried True Play, I've tried several different seating positions. It just, nothing really seems to really envelop me the way that my other two systems do. For Atmos, I do not recommend the Sonos Arc. I'm sure a lot of Sonos fanboys are gonna box me in the comments, but I'm serious. Like, unless you have the proper room for it, I don't recommend the Sonos Arc for Atmos. In fact, I don't recommend the Sonos Arc for gaming, and I definitely don't recommend the Sonos Arc if you're looking for like an immersion experience. It just does not deliver on that front. I would recommend the Sonos Arc if you watch a lot of movies, and you already own the Sonos system. I'd also recommend it, though, if you just need that pure boom, because this system is so loud. But I warn you that cranking it too loud, you will hear compression, because there's a limiter on this bar which prevents it from breaking. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with the woofers in the side, but I cannot prove that, and I'm not going to have somebody quote me on that or anything. The night mode is very handy too. It's nice to have that, but my Nakamichi had it too. It's not like it's anything new to me. Some people may really appreciate it though. The dialogue enhancement mode, I personally found that I never needed, but some people may really appreciate that as well. And just the simplicity of the software. But here's the real cheese. For $1,000, not including the sub, which is another $900, not including the rears, which is another $400 and something dollars, almost pretty much $2,000 something dollars for the entire Sonos system. It's not worth it, guys. It's really not. Not unless you fit into the category of people that I mentioned. You want immersion? You want Dolby Atmos, like raw Dolby Atmos, and if you want clarity from even like eARC, like that's another thing. This system's supposed to have eARC, but I don't really hear it. It's really loud, I'll give it that, but it doesn't sound very clear to me. In comparison, and I'm gonna do a revisit on it now. The Q90R, which I retested just the other day, sounded clear as a bell and unbelievably immersive, and yeah, The only thing holding the Q90R back was the fact that it didn't have 4 rears, it only had the 2. If it had 2 more rears, not only could it compete with the Nakamichi, it could probably actually demolish it. In my opinion. I also think Sonos really dropped the ball here. I expected, because this was named the all-in-one soundbar, that it would handle the processing on its own, realize when there's overhead effects needed in games that weren't necessarily Dolby Atmos, and implement them. But it doesn't. It just outputs your typical Dolby Digital, soundtrack. I think. I don't know. Maybe I heard some overhead effects, but I think it's because that the rears don't project the overhead effects and amplify them. The Sonos tries its best, but when there's only 2 up-firing drivers, you lose the 3D bubble. The Sonos has some really good bass, but the bass can be absolutely overpowering too. Like, it's ridiculous how loud it is. It's just like boom. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like listening to, I don't know, one of your old cartoons light a dynamite match. It's so loud. And I'm a very big fan of good bass. Hence why I have the Nakamichi with the dual woofers. And even that is not, even those aren't my favorite subs. But despite the Sonos being my favorite sub, the bass for the overall system is too prominent. It overpowers almost everything. It's so loud that my neighbors probably have complained by now. I'm not joking. I fully expect to get an email from my apartment superintendent tomorrow warning me to watch my music or watch my games because they're too loud. I fully expect that. And yeah, I'm just, for the price, guys, for what it's supposed to deliver, and the way that reviewers have gushed about it, and the way that people online have gushed about it, I was expecting this thing to just blow everything else I owned away. But I'm going to be honest, it doesn't. And I even borrowed an iPad from my stepfather to make sure that I got the most out of this system, the most I could, or the most that was possible. And it still didn't help. It didn't help the overall sound signature in my particular room. Maybe your room's different. Maybe it's nice and enclosed. Maybe the ceilings are a little bit better oriented, maybe not as high. Great. If that's the case and it's working awesome for you, great. But overall, I can't recommend this system. I just can't. And I say that with a heavy heart. It's a nice system. It's beautiful. It's so easy to set up. It works like a dream. But at the same time, it doesn't. Because it doesn't deliver on what is promised. The Dolby Atmos in this system is, in my opinion, very weak. The bass is good. The overall sound is really clear and nice. The bass can be sometimes overpowering, though, and because the rears don't have dedicated up-firing channels or any kind of processing, and the bar itself doesn't have any kind of processing, sound details and signatures are lost. Now, weirdly, some details are amplified, though, like when someone's walking, or if there's, like, I don't know, someone clanging a sword or something, this thing will bring it out in full detail, like a bing, and it'll just shine that way. But again, it doesn't make up for the fact that overall, I don't think this system is worth your money. I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree. Sonos fans are going to blast me in the comments. But this is my personal opinion. For me, this isn't worth it. This is $1,000 wasted for me. And tomorrow, I think I'm going to return this. Unless in the comments, you can give me any suggestions that will improve this system and the way that it sounds. I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to, your criticism. I mean, I've learned a lot from it. originally when I listened to the Arc, I didn't give it enough of a chance, and you guys called me out on it, and I'm okay with that. But I still, my overall opinion, although changed, remains that I personally am not going to continue using this system. It's not good enough for what I use it for, and it's not, I just can't recommend it for the price. I mean, $2,000 for $1,400, you can get the Nakamichi 9.2.4. For $1,300, maybe less by this point, you can get the Samsung Q90R. And in my opinion, for home theater and for gaming, those systems just are so much better. Now, for music, that's where Sonos really shines. For music, and I have to admit, it was pretty good for theater too. Not as good as the Q90R, but it was still half decent. I was impressed. So this has been a long one, guys, and I apologize if for some of the my negative feedback on this, but I have to be honest about it. I can't lie to you guys, and I really don't think this system, this bar, if you will, is worth the $1,000 asking price. If it was $600, yeah, I'd give it a pass. But $1,000, no. It's too much money. It doesn't do what it says it does, at least for me, and it doesn't do enough. Oh, and furthermore, for whatever reason, DTS:X is not supported in the Sonos bar. And there are a lot of movie gurus out there who own Blu-rays which support these formats and are looking to play these formats. The Sonos does not have your back with that. Also, another thing I should mention, which is a huge drawback to me personally, or anybody who owns a Nintendo Switch for that matter, if you do not have an eARC TV, you cannot play LPCM content. You have to have LPCM over eARC. That's the only way. Sonos does not allow you to have PCM content without eARC. And again, I feel like they're dropping the ball here because it shouldn't rely on eARC to have LPCM 5.1. No other system really has this complication, so I don't understand it. On the note of eARC versus ARC, if you have an ARC TV, you probably won't get the most out of this system. I have an eARC TV, and I'm still not getting the most out of this system. So I highly recommend that if you're going to still purchase this system and see for yourself, have an eARC ready TV. I think it'll make all that difference. But anyways, guys, that was a lot to take in, I'm sure, and that was a lot for me to talk about, but I had to make sure I went over every little excruciating detail, as painful as it was for me. I really wanted to like this system as much as everybody else does. I really did. I wanted it to just blow everything else that I owned away, just like my previous Sonos systems did back in the day when I upgraded from a measly little Yamaha bar to, the Sonos Play bar. But it just doesn't do that. It doesn't do that, and I can't lie to you guys. So, with heavy heart, I say, if you can afford it, and you really want Sonos, then get it. But if you don't care if it's Sonos, if you prefer more immersion and you just want something with just a little bit more sound clarity, don't buy Sonos. I'm sorry, Sonos, but I can't give you the recommendation here. Of course, if you're really into voice assistants as well, I didn't set them up on my Arc. I just don't see the point. I don't want to talk to my soundbar. That's silly. And yeah. So if you like this video, give it a like. If you didn't, give it a dislike. If you haven't, I'd love it if you should subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Share with this friend. Share this with your friends if you can. Ding the bell if you want to see what I come out with next. And that'll be all for now. So I think, guys, honestly speaking, that unless one of you can give me advice on how to make this system better, I'm going to return it tomorrow. It's just, it feels like $1,000 was just wasted, in my opinion. And it's really hard for me to admit that. After I waited so long to get one of these too and saved up and everything. Anyways, guys, stay healthy, stay safe always, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.